Is it 24th or 25th?
I think is it the 25th? I think it's the 25th.
25th. These days pass so quickly.
My mother used to tell me that time goes faster as you get older. I must be getting really old because I can't believe this is in the middle of August.
Now, Roland, what connection are you? Your last name?
Well, I'm married into the Rowland family. You probably know Bill. He's my brother-in-law.
Oh, brother-in-law.
Okay. He's the oldest boy in that family, and my husband's the second in that family. I have a little legal piece that I have to get out of the way right here at the beginning. This tape is part of the Middle Tennessee Oral History Collection designated as MT 2000.019. This is Betty Rowland. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2000. I'm interviewing Mary Scales at the Scales Funeral Home located at 318 State Street in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The tape of this interview, along with the transcription of the interview, will become part of the MTSU Oral History Collection and will be available to the public. Future researchers may include portions of this interview in their publications. Is that all right with you, Mary?
That's fine.
Okay. We'll just get some things for the record out of the way. I need your full name.
Mary Caruthers Scales.
Okay. And your date of birth?
September 24th, 1928.
Okay. And your place of birth?
Columbus, Georgia.
Georgia girl. Your father's name?
Robert Scales.
Okay. No, your father.
Oh, excuse me, Robert Caruthers.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Took me a second to get. And what was your father's occupation?
An accountant.
Oh, really? Okay. And your mother's name?
Elizabeth Caruthers.
Okay. And her occupation?
She was an elevator operator back there.
Oh, I remember elevator operators.
Yes.
I remember, let's see, in Nashville at Kessner Knots, I think, where there would be an elevator operator. They were always so friendly.
She was in a doctor's building.
Okay. Mary, do you have memories of segregation as a child in Columbus, Georgia?
Not too much. I was born there.
Mary's eating candy.
I was born there, but my father, when I was very young, we moved to Chicago.
Oh, really?
So at that age, no, that was not a concern of mine, you know, at that particular time, because whatever I needed or wanted at that age.
Yeah. Do you remember, were there difficult points for your parents?
From what they have told me, but as far as my remembering, oh yes, and I had a brother, older brother, who really remembers a lot of it and had a very, I was trying to describe my brother, almost militant attitude about how things were.
In Georgia or in Chicago?
In Georgia. I was telling you about the Georgia days, and only thing I know is the memory. I mean, not the memory, but what they have been talking about. And so many things I would say I remember, and my mother said, "You just heard us talk so much about it. You were too young," that kind of thing. But it was very segregated from what I understand. There.
Was it difficult for your father? You said he was an accountant.
Oh, now that's a big story. My dad, they had no high school in Columbus, Georgia. They had to go to Atlanta. So his family all went to school and became teachers. But my dad did not want any part of being a teacher. So he accepted this job at a factory as an accountant. He could leave with a suit on, but when he got there, he had to put on coveralls, and his office was in the storage room in the back. And one time, the president of that company came to our house at night with tears in his eyes, and said he cannot take it any longer, that he had made arrangement with the main company in Chicago to give him his rightful place in the position because he had been operating the company from the storage, and to give him that position and back pay. And then that's when we moved to Chicago, and my dad took his rightful place with the pay. But he always taught us not to be bitter, that to prepare ourselves, get something in our head. There will be a place for us in America, not to be bitter about what has happened with him. But I think he worried so much about it and not being able to make the proper preparation for his family as he wanted to. He died early of a heart problem or a heart attack, and my mother always felt that he worried quite a bit about how he was treated.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I just have one brother.
Just one brother. So you were educated, for the most part, in Chicago?
Yes.
Public schools there?
All but 1 year. And that was the main year. My mother was ill, and because she had no relatives there in Chicago, and her relatives were in Columbus, and she wanted to go home until she was better. And my brother stayed with my dad, and of course she took me with her, and that was my senior year in high school.
Oh my.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and because it was still segregated back there too, because I graduated in 46.
Okay. We said we wouldn't do dates, but
Okay.
roughly, I was letting you off the hook. Mid-40s, right?
Okay. No, I meant all of the things I was in and when I was in them is what I meant. But I do remember my little personal dates.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I did there. So then I graduated from Spencer High School in Columbus, Georgia, and Dr. Walker's people knew my folk when I came here. And my mother's maiden name was Walker, and we tried to trace it down. And so when I met his mother, she knew my family. She knew my family. So it was just a small world.
Yes, it is. Sometimes it amazes us, doesn't it?
Yes.
You went on to college.
Yes.
Did your dad encourage you to go to college?
Oh, let me tell you. As long as I can remember, he would sit me on his knee and say, I'm going to send my daughter to the biggest college, and she's going to be the best teacher in the world.
He wanted you to be a teacher.
Yeah, that's what he said. And of course, he instilled that in me. I mean, he was going to send me to this big school, and I was going to be the best teacher, and I would teach chairs, and anybody came to my house, I had to have school.
So you practiced teaching from a young age?
From a young age, and I've discovered when parents talk to children, they instill whatever it is they say. If you say you're no good, they'll feel that way. But I was destined to go to college. I mean, there was no question that I was going to go to college and become a teacher. That it was just, that was...
Your course was set.
Yeah. I mean, I loved every minute, and I keep reflecting. I thought, all the time I hear parents say, you're no good, you're not going to be anything, and how important it was to me for my dad, to say that I was going to be a great teacher, and he's going to send me to this big college, and I mean, he constantly told me that, and I believed, that was just it. There was just no other way.
You believed it, and so it had to be, didn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Where did you go to college?
So this is a long story too.
Okay. I brought an extra
I
tape.
came to Tennessee.
Okay.
to Knoxville, Knoxville College in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's when I met my husband. His sister was in my class, and he and his mother took his sister there. And by being in Chicago, what was it? Thanksgiving. Fisk University and Knoxville College always had a classic game on Thanksgiving, and they interchanged places. And that particular year, they were going to play in Nashville. They have the big game and the big ball and, all of that. So I came to Murfreesboro with his sister, so we could go to the game. Well, he told me, he said, "I'm going to marry you." I said, "This is the craziest guy I've ever met in my life."
He said that when you met?
Yeah, that's what he said. And he constantly, if persistent means anything, that was him. And on Christmas, he said, I'm going to come up to see you. I said, "No, you're not invited. You're not wanted to come." 3 a.m. Christmas morning, the doorbell rang. Howdy. Hi, y'all. And he got me in trouble with my mother because it was a long time before she believed that he wasn't invited,
Oh.
The least you could have done was to have told me. I said, "But Mother, he wasn't invited." So that was the kind of guy he was. And
How long did it take this persistent guy to get you to marry him?
Okay, this is it. My dad, as I told you, died. And, I just thought my world was going to come to an end because I think had he lived, I might have been the most arrogant person, because he just made me feel I was just so special. But I said he lived a lifetime because nobody could give that affection on long to live. But at any rate, I just felt my world come to the end. He said, "Mary, with all of these schools, the visit was just constant, And he said, with all these schools in Nashville, why don't we just go in and get married?" And then, So really that's what happened. And then, of course, I had to go to Tennessee State. And I had to drive the 32 miles. Because
So you married?
Yes.
And moved to Murfreesboro. And you were driving from Murfreesboro?
Yeah, to Nashville. Because I could not attend Middle Tennessee. No blacks were allowed.
And that's in the
50s.
50s?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first African-American student attended in 1962.
I would imagine.
So you had to do that driving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll get your husband's name for the record now.
Okay, Robert Winston Scales.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your children's names for the record.
Robert Scales Jr., Madeline Scales Harris, Preston Marcellus Scales, and Joan Scales Simmons.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any connections there to MTSU? Did any of your
Madeline graduated from MTSU.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Preston is Cincinnati. Bobby Weston, Kentucky, and Joan UT Knoxville.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We talked about your educational background. Now, I think you did some work at MTSU.
I got my master's
Your
there.
master's is there.
Mm-hmm. And
do you remember when that was?
1967, I believe.
67.
Mm-hmm.
So you were on campus as a student during those early years
Right.
of the first
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
black students being on
Mm-hmm.
campus.
In fact, I don't know whether Phyllis told you about the Upward Bound program.
Yes.
Okay, I was a math instructor in that program.
Let me back up before we do that and ask you how you chose math.
My dad.
Oh. It's about
My
your
dad. Oh, my dad. In fact, we gave teachers lots of trouble because he was using the modern approach to mathematics way back there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It bothered me that they called it new math because it's really not new math. You could have taken a 1926 mathematics book. It's the method of teaching, and there are many ways to solve a problem. It's not just, so it's really the method more than the new math. It bothered me if you called it new math, but it's
So you were doing new math before teachers knew what to call it?
the modern approach. For instance, say if I had to multiply 978 times 99, Dad said, don't go through all of that. 99 plus 1 equals 100. So when you multiply anything times 100, you just add 2 zeros on the end and subtract that 1,999, and then that's the answer of 99 times that or something. And the teacher would give us work, and in a few minutes I said, okay, what else you want me to do? Because he taught me so many of those methods, and see, that was just a different approach. 99 plus 1 equals 100, and then you have to subtract that from the answer there, and that instead of 99 times this, and that was just one example. But and when I saw the new math books, and I thought, I've already been doing this. So really,
you didn't have trouble with the adjustment.
I know well, that was my field, and so, but the problem with the math, they call it new math, was the teachers were not trained, and the language was different, anything that they had, and it was not to be taught from page to page. It was to be taught by concepts, and it was a disaster. It was really, Mr. Hopgood, who was superintendent, hired me to give classes after school and on weekends for teachers, helping them with the new approach to teaching mathematics. And in my student teaching and teaching the math and the methods at the university, I found that was a big, big problem. First, there's an attitude there that is hard, and then in my supervising teachers, I found that many of the teachers who are teaching have that attitude, oh, math, I don't like math or something, and but it's really, it's a concept that's built one on top of the other. If you miss one, you're in bad, it's kind of hard to, so, but math is a beautiful thing. But yes, my dad was the one who motivated me. In fact, most of my classes, I was in class with the engineer male students. Many of my advanced classes, I was the only female in the class, yes. Really? And some of my classmates thought, well, Mary has this problem, because the math classes were daily, and others every other day. But yeah, my love is still mathematics. I have one daughter who finally, the others said, you work too much, you're grading papers, you're doing this, I don't want that. But Joan is a mathematics teacher at Oakland High School.
Wow.
Yeah, I got one.
You must be very proud of that.
I am. Yeah, she was.
Well, now you're at MTSU working on your master's. And is that when you did Upward Bound?
That's when I did Upward Bound.
Tell me about Upward Bound.
Bob Womack. Have you interviewed him?
He was interviewed in that first series of interviews that I told you about.
Well, he didn't have problems, but there were concerns on other people's part that was the first time integration in the dormitory was going to be. And they just thought, many people thought, oh, that will not work.
Now, the Upward Bound students that were coming in were not necessarily all African American students.
No.
It was a mixture of students.
That was mixture.
But it was the first time that African American students would be staying in the dorms?
That's right.
Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
And together,
Oh,
black
okay.
and white,
Okay.
And Dr. Womack said, no problem, no problem. But at first, they were really concerned about approving that on campus. But he had counselors, and because Phyllis told you the nature of the program, the kids that were selected. And so I taught the mathematics.
Now, how did you become involved with the program? Did you volunteer for it, or did he come to you?
They came to me.
Okay.
Same thing as the mathematics specialist State Department. They and the reason they got me, the first basic skills test, they selected me as one of the ones to write it.
Okay.
So.
Well, tell me what the racial climate was like on campus in the 60s when you were working on your master's, when the Upward Bound students were first coming. Was it difficult? Was it strained?
I think because I was an adult, that my maturity made me handle things better than some younger ones would. I would walk in my class, and if I passed someone, I would say, "Excuse me," or "Good morning." Nothing. I was just isolated in the classroom. And
Now, you didn't get that reception from your Upward Bound students, did you?
Oh no, not the Upward Bound students.
Yeah.
They were too happy and excited to be on campus because the environment that they came from, was just, in the projects and everything real bad. So they were too excited to have a problem with each other.
Yeah, I've talked to at least 2 people who were involved in Upward Bound as students, and they said it just changed their life. Tremendous impact.
Yeah, because we tried to tell them that where they came from, who their parents were, has nothing to do. They were individual, and they could be what they wanted to be. And we tried to instill that in, and we made them feel so special. And they were getting experiences that they never had. And we even had classes with the girls walking, I had them put a book on their head, and, and they were in a totally different world. And they had
You were giving them options
plenty of food
that they had not had before.
Right. They were, and I sort of adopted Phyllis, and she wanted to stop. No, you're going this semester till she got a doctorate, She said she was just stayed mad with me because I stayed on her, But
that's what mamas do.
Yeah, that's right. So, no. I think the students were experiencing something they never knew existed till now. If they had little problems at night or something, like boys' horseplay or something, I think it would have been if they were all black or all white. I was not one of the counselors per se to stay with them at night, but even when I was not teaching, we had activities where we took them. I know the first Sound of Music movie I saw, we took them to Atlanta. We just, it was everything that we could think of the experience.
I've been told that theater was probably one of the most enjoyable things for the students. They had a theater component, which allowed them the opportunity to do
themselves.
public speaking and to sing.
Oh, I was very, very disturbed when I heard we lost the program. Now, the last I heard, Tennessee State still had it, but it's a program that, Dr. Womack left the program, and it was a government program, and I don't think they kept things like they should have or something. I don't really know what the problem was, but that was one way of reaching children. It was really an experience. Like Phyllis said, she didn't dream of going to college. You know, she didn't think she could. And
it changed lives.
yeah, it's a great program. Well, as far back the question about integration, I don't think the students felt that way. And we set the stage too. We set the stage. There were black and white teachers and counselors, and of course, you know, Dr. Womack, how open he is, and Frank, and he had a little problem, I think, with the university accepting that program when they told what was going to happen, because the children had not been black and white living in the dorm together. I think he told me that. But anyway,
Until Upward Bound.
I think that was a big problem. But no.
Well, you know, I looked through Sidelines through the 60s, through when the first African American student, as said, was 1962, and I don't see any controversy. I don't see any disturbances in the early 60s or even mid-60s. It's more 69, 70, and 71 where some issues begin to come to the surface.
Because there were more minorities on campus. At first, there were very, very few. You could count them.
Oh, really?
Yes. That was one reason. And so that little group bound together, you know. And as the number increased, and they want to be involved in things, you know, so that's really what happened.
Yeah, I think I've got a timeline somewhere. I think the first Black Student Association, Black Student Union on campus is like 1969.
Okay.
And the first African American history course is taught in 1969. So we begin to see those voices emerging louder, I think. Now, one of the reasons, see if I need to turn my tape over. One of the reasons I'm here today, one of the many reasons I'm here today, you are the first full-time African American professor at MTSU.
That's right.
How did that happen?
How really did that happen?
Just happened.
Oh, I know how it happened. I was supervisor of instruction for Rutherford County Schools.
Okay, so you already had your master's?
Yes.
And you were working for Rutherford County Schools. Okay.
And they were having problems with student teachers that somehow, I don't want to say what the problem was because I really don't know.
Okay.
But I think the school system said they didn't want any more student teachers or something. But at any rate, Dr. White and Dr. Polcott and all asked me about some programs, letting some students sit in on something or something, whatever. Said, delighted. I have some teachers who would be happy to assist the students. So we started getting students into classrooms to observe and those kinds of things. And the university was very excited because students need to get into classrooms, and I opened up that option. And we had many conferences because they wanted different programs and wanted students to see different things, and I would get teachers to do whatever they wanted the students to see, methods and things. And one day I was called and wanted to set an appointment. I said, okay, you're coming to my office? Said, no, we want you to come to the university. And Dr. Polcott's office, he was dean of
education? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Okay, look that up. And so I went there thinking they had another program. And they said, well, Mary, we have been observing you, and we would like for you to come and be a part of our faculty. I said, me? You know, I had never even thought of that. So I was asked to do that, and they want me to work with some student teachers. I said, if I can't teach mathematics, I won't come. So I did both, and that's how I got there.
Now, roughly, is that early 70s, mid 70s?
Early 70s.
Okay.
In fact, like 7 to 1, maybe.
Now, when we say that you're the first full time, there were other black professors, but they were maybe
in the summer. They had a professor to come and teach one black history class. In the summer, but never hired a full-time person.
Did you realize when you accepted it that you were taking on that responsibility too?
No. I was so into education, and wanting to make a difference. I said, I would play a role. I saw a lot of things in the profession that I thought we needed to work on. And I thought, I don't want to be the one. In fact, I had 2 people I didn't approve while I was working to be a teacher. I felt it a strong responsibility of being able to approve people to be teachers who did not meet qualifications, So I accepted that as a challenge. I never once thought. Well, see, before that time, I had been at the all-white elementary school in the 8th grade in the city. So that was not the first integrated position I had had. I was the first black at Bellwood School, which was the newest school at that time. What else had I done?
So you'd been in this kind of situation already in your career.
Yeah, I really had. And I was asked, when the city went out of the 7th and 8th grade, I was asked to be the liaison person to bring the city and county teachers together. That's the Central Middle School. And they felt that I was the one could do that with the mixture black, white, and city, county. And somehow they said the city teachers thought they were more than the county. And the city had certain textbooks, and the county had different textbooks. And the city taught American history in the 8th grade. The county taught in the 7th grade. So it was a lot of work to be done there.
It's just human nature for division, apparently, whether it be whatever the issue may be.
So I had been working in those kind of situations, and somehow they felt I was a person that could work with both groups. And it was trying, but I also came up with the mini schools, the concept at Central Middle School. So it was just exciting times. I never thought black, white, and I was fair with all the teachers, and I never encountered black, white. They seemed to respect my position. So when we get to you haven't gotten to the university yet, have you?
Yeah.
About what happened?
Well, okay, so you're going in with the purpose of improving education.
Right.
Which is
excited about it.
Excited. Did you face problems?
Not with students.
Really?
I knew, having been taught these other areas, that if you're prepared, if you know your subject matter, if you have your syllabus ready and give it to the students and let them know what's expected from that class, then I didn't think you should encounter many problems. However, knowing who I was, and that's one thing, you have to always be aware who you are. When I laid out my work with the students, went over the syllabus, checked the roll, said, this is what's expected of this class. This is when this is due, blah, blah. And if anyone cannot meet these standards, because this is what this class is about, I will be happy to sign your drop slip, you know. So I went in charge, you know, in charge. And the students, you know, I had no problem, because when I was in class, if a teacher would let me know what's expected, you know. So I had no problems with students. And I opened my hours for them, and if they worked or something, I was happy to make appointment with them to meet at different times. And I've always been for students, you know, wanting to help, you know, that kind of thing. So they found out. But some of the faculty members would swear I encountered a little. Like in one faculty meeting, one professor said, "How did you get here?" I thought I knew what he was talking about, but I said, "Sir," he said, "how did you get here?" I said, "Oh, I drove my car. Do you need a ride?" And of course, everybody laughed heartily because they knew what he was talking about, you know, and I pretend I didn't. And I felt like I was a loner on campus. I really, truly did.
But your attitude is what kept you afloat, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes, oh, yes. Like Dr. Ingram, I took advanced sociology from his class, and that was terrible. It was supervisors and principals in that class, and they wanted to know why was I here or something, blah, blah, blah. All you folk do is just sing or something. I said, well, you should follow me in the bathroom and hear me or something. And I would always just make a joke out of it. But when I would get home, I would just be sick. I mean, it was, but I did not let on. And many times Dr. Ingram would say, "Mary, I will just straight lecture." I said, no, if I could change one attitude, I said, these are the people who are going to have to work with the little black children, you know? And I said, if I could change, but I would get home and be just sick, you know, just.
Imagine.
It was terrible. It was really. And then one day I was on campus just feeling so low, and Dr. Bowden,
Will Bowden?
Will Bowden, saw me, and he took my hand. He said, "Miss Scales, how are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing or something." He said, "Look, I'm here for you. If you need me, just come to the office." "No, you come to my office and talk to me. You see, I want you to come." And I did, and he got me out of that little depression I was in, and from that point on, nothing really. I encountered one parent, but I kept good records, you know. And so the parent finally said, yeah, I knew she wasn't doing anything or whatever or something, but and one student said to me, "Is this your rule or the university rules?" or something like that. But being mature, you know, I said, well, I follow university guidelines, but this is my rule, you know. I was always in charge, you know, that kind of thing. I never let down like they were, you know, bothering me. You know. So after that, I mean, students never, you know, because I wanted them to know I was there for them. And in all of my teaching, I haven't had, I know when I was teaching 8th grade in Murfreesboro City, the superintendent said he'd stand outside my door sometime, and the same students leave my class and go across the hall and tear up Jack. And he wanted me to do in service on discipline. I said, I don't know how to teach discipline, you know. So what do you do? He said, yeah, I wanted to tell him because I see how you carry your class or something. And I said, no, I'm prepared and ready for the students when they come, and let them know I'm there for them. And I said, I enjoy teaching. I love children. You know, so I could say that in 2 minutes, and that's, you know. So I really never knew, you know, I couldn't just say, because I've always, and I guess it was instilled from early days that, you know, I want to be this teacher. And then a little of having children too.
Yeah.
A teacher does not have to have children, but it really makes, I think you always think, I would say, when there was a problem, how would I like for a teacher to handle my children? And I think, but I love youth, and I dearly love teaching. In fact, when I went into administration, I thought, oh no, what have I done? And so what I did when I went to continuing studies, but the way I got to continuing studies, my mother had cancer. And her last days, I would go to class, and I would feel I should be there with her. And when I stayed and not went to class and with her, I felt I was cheating the students, because my peers would take, Mary, we'll take your class, don't worry, but I can't teach that math. And so, you know, I said, those kids are there, and we're robbing them. So that was, this opening came in continued studies. And because of her illness, and if I had to be out, I wouldn't feel I was robbing the students, you know. And because I couldn't get anybody to teach the class, but they would meet the students and give them whatever I had. But, you know, I felt so guilty. And the students are there paying for that. And in mathematics, each area depends on the other, and it would be robbing them. So that's how I left the classroom, but my heart stayed there. So I said, well, I'll teach one class of math, but my responsibilities got so great in that area, I didn't try it anymore, you know, to do both. But I was trying to keep my sanity by teaching a math class, but it was really too much to handle. So no, I didn't. I think after trying to teach students to be teachers, I didn't encounter some things because I kept focused on why I was there. And but like I said, I didn't get the royal welcome from faculty. Some of the faculty members that I felt like a loner in that area.
When did you retire from MTSU?
Must have been 88.
You saw a lot of changes during that time.
Changes.
I think I saw that you served on an interracial committee during the 70s that looked, now what I've been told that committee did, they looked at a lot of issues on campus and brought them to the front.
That's right. That's right. We did.
And
there were a lot of issues in housing. The student body thought the football team, mostly all black and no black cheerleader. And we got the concerns of the students and took a look. And we invited them.
How did you get those?
We invited, I don't know whether we took organizations or whether the announcement was, if you have a problem, to send it in. I can't recall.
But you got it straight from the students.
Yes, straight from the students. And the president backed us, you know, and there were areas where it needed problems, and he requested that the changes be made. I can recall one young lady who tried out for cheerleading, and she was turned down. And they said she was the best one. She took gymnastics and was very good. And when we questioned it, said she was a pound overweight. But I took the student to Dr. Ingram. He said, if she loses another pound, she'd be in bad health. So we changed it. Height had something to do with it. She was a skinny, but her height, and she was a pound over, so we changed that scale. Just little things like that that we did, and we had lots of problem in housing, but we got those worked out. And if you look at the sideline um, during that time, because they quoted me all, no, it was the Daily News Journal, I think, Mary C. Scales. Yeah, so if you can look back at some of those, we really had a lot of issues.
But they needed addressing.
Oh, that needed addressing. And many of them were simply because they were not aware.
Right.
You know?
Right. We talked about that earlier. Sometimes
like
you're just not, you just don't
things
know.
in the city, when my husband went to them, they said, no, that shouldn't be, you know, but we never realized. So that was a Phyllis, and I'm trying to think of his name now, because he'd always quote my name. I don't know whether he's still there. I know he had cancer of the tongue.
Monty Hale?
Huh?
There was a radio announcer.
No. This is a professor on campus.
Oh.
Because we had a newspaper.
Is that Dr. West?
Yeah. Yeah, he was on that committee.
Okay.
And he'd always,
yes,
Mary C. Scales said that. But we worked together and accomplished a lot.
That's great.
And Dr. Ingram supported our recommendations, and that was good.
Now, I think I read also that you were an advisor. You may have been one of the first advisors for Alpha Kappa Alpha, which was,
sorority.
Is that the first black sorority on campus? Do you know? Close, if it's not the first, it's among the first.
Yeah. Oh, we were the first chartered.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the first chartered.
Okay.
I think Delta had a little group, but they were not chartered. We were the first chartered.
How did you become an advisor?
Well, I am an Alpha Kappa Alpha lady.
Oh, you were.
And you have to...
now, when you were in college in Knoxville, is that where you were affiliated with it before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we... by being on campus those early years, parents would call me. I'm sending my baby there, and I want you to look after her. They told me to call you. And at graduation, I would have a luncheon at my home for the black graduates and their parents. And we'd have a tea with the sorority, at my home. And if a student, not just a sorority student, but a student was ill, had to go to hospital, I'd go and stay with the student until the parents could get there. And I was the black token on campus. Anything that happened, they would get me.
Well, I asked you earlier how it's felt being that trailblazer. It's a tremendous responsibility, isn't it?
But I never even thought of it like that. It's just
Mary Scales at work.
Yeah, and I always felt that, the Lord has blessed me and my family. He's placed us in a position with a great business and family, and I just feel it's all like my Christian duty to reach out and help. And my family, we've always been like that, and so we get all types of calls, you would believe, from people wanting different things. And when somebody new come to town, they'd say, call Mary Scales, It was that kind of thing. And it's, I guess it's a love of life, love of people, and...
It hasn't been a burden to you then?
No.
Being the trailblazer.
No, it has not been, but I get very upset with myself. I said, how did I get into this, And most of the things I have not sought, they have come to me. Like the supervisor's position. When the superintendent asked me to go to this all-white school, when I was invited to become a part of MTSU, those positions were all given to me. I never, in fact, when I find myself in different positions, I thought, how did I get here? You know,
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing. But I think that's what living is all about. And I equate it with my Christian duty. But I do get so involved sometimes. I thought, oh. And then when someone asks, it's just so hard to say no if it's a need. Um, but my husband is the one that you should have known.
Well, now I wanted to ask you. I guess we'll put MTSU to the side, and we're going to talk about Murfreesboro
Mm-hmm.
and your involvement in Murfreesboro leadership, politics.
Mm-hmm.
You told me that your husband
Was first African American councilman in the South since Reconstruction.
Whoa! How in the world did that happen?
Well, Murfreesboro black community had all dirt streets, outhouses that smelled.
Now, when would this be?
Hmm?
When would this be? Is this when
I came in in '49,
Okay, and when did he first seek?
'64.
Okay, so that's the time frame we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Dirt streets.
Dirt street. There was not a paved street, not a city light, not a street light, outdoor toilets. It was terrible. It was just absolutely degrading. And they drafted a group of men, met and said, we must do something about it, but we need a leader. And they selected my husband and supported him and went out and campaigned. I mean, the whole city, you just wouldn't believe. But my husband had been, I guess you would say, a councilman without a title, because the blacks would come to him simply because we were in business anyway. And he would read papers to them that they would get and assist them with everything.
Okay.
He was the person, and because I would assist him with the legal things. And so he was drafted to be that. And since my husband had a reputation of working, trying to work with people, not with a fisc, but he would go to the source and talk and try to get things done. And he ran on the, his motto was, come, let's reason together. And so instead of going with a stick, he would go and sit down with the people and say, let's just work this out. And at that time, they were bombing and looting other places.
I was going to say, the 60s.
And he said, look, this is going to happen here unless we do something.
Yes.
And so he was elected. He led the ticket at that time. All the precincts, black and white. And people were in the street shouting, rejoicing. It was something to see. It was a pride of joy for Murfreesboro. They met, and my friends, California, New York, and all called, what's this in the paper? You know, it made history.
Oh,
it made
yes.
history. And he would sit down with the leaders, and they said, Robert, you know, we never realized this. Nobody brought it. We never in that area. This is degrading. And they got busy. Paving street, putting street lights, making the owners move those outdoor toilets. And because, of course, the little shacks were owned by whites anyway. And cleaned up. And then what we did, we worked with the blacks, getting these young people off of porches, just having babies, to get trained and get work, you know. And we just didn't work with integration, but we worked with our people to say education is the key.
How did you do that?
Well, in our churches, most of our things were done through our churches. And schools. At that time, there were segregated schools. So those were the meeting places, the schools and the churches and the ministers, and we all. and they listened to his leadership, and we just first thing we did, we got policemen, we got firemen, blacks. There was not even a black janitor hired in Murfreesboro at that time.
You mean in the city government?
Mm-hmm. And because not the county, if it were not the city.
Right.
No. I think the only factory they had here then was the Carnation Milk Plant. I don't think it's here anymore.
Yeah.
And
It was a totally... For
yeah.
those people listening to this tape, Murfreesboro has grown tremendously. It was a totally different environment.
It's totally. And of course, the university started growing and bringing in foreigners, they call them.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was, how change is so hard to accept, and many of the professors were not accepted. Well, in that time, many of them looked like hippies, the long hair and the different things. And then they start moving in the community, going to the churches, and now there is not a difference made, but it used to have no problem. In fact, my husband had problems, said, look, let's use the resource at the university, and all those folk out there, But so finally, with different people coming in Murfreesboro, sort of helped change the environment. But it was a hard go for my family. We were we stayed tense and nervous and during those early days.
Well, I was going to say, while there was celebration also.
It was just celebration that night when he won.
But you told me that there were... You told me there was a cross burning in your yard?
Oh, yes.
Is that during the time he was campaigning or after?
No, after. When he was making all these changes. And he was requiring and bringing out how bad things were. That's when, and getting and exposing who owned the houses. Yeah. So, it was really, really bad.
How many years did he serve on the city council?
24 years, and 8 of those years was vice mayor. Mm-hmm. So
he made a difference.
Oh, he made a great difference. He made it. That guy's heart. I stayed angry most of the time because of the sacrifice he would make. He said, "Mira, this thing's gonna be different." But the kids stayed nervous. It was a very hard time.
Was he? When did he pass?
He's at Adams Place.
Oh, I didn't
with
realize
Alzheimer's.
that.
Been there 4 months.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, it's the saddest thing.
We were talking about your husband with the city council, and we determined that he is currently at Adams Place.
Mm-hmm.
But he served with the city council for, how many years did you say?
24 years.
24 years.
And 8 of those years he was vice mayor. Mm-hmm.
If I could interview him, what do you think he would tell me was probably one of the accomplishments that he's most proud of?
Maybe that he was made all races aware of the inequities, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of his work was really just bringing it out, making people aware what the situation was.
He was a teacher in his own way, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was. And
now, was he always from Murfreesboro?
oh, born right in this house right here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a native of Murfreesboro.
Now, is this a family business? Did his father?
This business was established in 1916. My husband's the 2nd generation, and my 2 boys are the 3rd generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a family legacy, one we are very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's,
Well, now, you told me that you also served on the city council. So
Yes.
how did Mary Scales, the teacher, wind up? Now, you told me you were on the school board, and
Yeah.
I can kind of see that one. But how did Mary Scales, the teacher,
Well,
wind up on the
when
city
my
council?
husband told them that after the 6 bypass surgery, I think his nerves sort of, and he told a committee that they needed to look for someone because he would not run again. And when the committee came back, they told him we had someone. He said, "Oh, good." And they said, Mary C. Scales. I said, no, not me. I said,
Had they talked to you prior to the
no,
announcement?
I have been it for 24 years because, I'd written all of his speeches and all of his ads and everything. I said, no, I have been it. And
Well, they
said,
figured they were getting someone experienced.
yeah, they said, so. But anyway, so that's how that happened. And my question was always, why? Something was like it was. It's like Kennedy, why does it have to be like this? So.
Now, you served on the council from 88 to 92.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have to cover as difficult a territory as he did.
No. Well, that was when the growth period of Murfreesboro.
So you covered a different difficult period.
Yes. The infrastructure and everything was just went wild because of the growth. Mm-hmm. Those were the fastest growing years in Murfreesboro history.
Who was the mayor during that time? May have been more than one.
No, the mayor was Joe Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Joe Jackson was mayor during that time.
Well, what are some accomplishments of the council during that time that you're really proud of?
Well, I guess managing growth was seemingly our biggest thrust at that time, and finding funds.
And it's probably past that. This is tape 2 of the interview with Mary Scales. We were talking about the growth, and you were talking about your interest in education while you were on the council.
I guess my biggest accomplishment was pushing for new schools, finding the funds, because there were times they wanted to wait.
Now, is that that's Murfreesboro City Schools?
Murfreesboro City Schools is where I was a member. So, to me, that was my greatest pride and accomplishment, that we were able to go ahead, and naturally, when the schools open, they will fill.
What new schools opened during that time?
Casey Lane.
And that's Casey Lane. That was the first year-round school.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's.
Did it open as a year-round school?
Yes, it opened as a year-round school. There were big problems at first because children were in high school, different schools, and parents working, and the little one's going to be out when the other's in school, high school, and but so they made it a choice that the people who wanted year-round. But I think now 2 more schools.
Yeah, we've got Irma Siegel
and Hopgood, I think, a year-round.
I believe you're right. I think there is a third one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I had the hat of educator on the city council, and we were able to maneuver some bonds around where we could go ahead, because I knew the situation, and I worked in an overcrowded school, and I know the teacher cannot do the job that she or he would like to do, and the student could not get the attention they should when the classroom's too large. And so I pushed for teacher-pupil ratio. So I guess that's more or less where I was at that time.
How did you serve on the school board? Is that an elected position for the school board? Or
Appointed.
Is it appointed?
It was appointed at that time.
Okay.
And yeah, both times was appointed.
Now, when your husband served on the city council, he probably for several years was the only African American.
Oh yes. He was the only African American.
For all 24 years of his? Really?
Yes, he was.
Were you the only African American when you were serving?
I was.
Is there only
one now?
There's only one now. I don't live in Murfreesboro
And when I went
City,
off,
so.
the 4 years I was off, there was not one.
Really?
It's important because you have the whole city, and each council member should bring something to the board. And it's like I said, it was so much that people are not aware. And because being a councilman at large, it's pretty hard to know what's going on everywhere. And it's just good to have diversity on the council.
Right. So there's only, right now, in the year 2000, from Murfreesboro, there's only one African American councilman.
And I think there's only one commissioner in Rutherford County, Alan McAdoo.
Who?
Alan McAdoo.
Oh.
I think he's a graduate of MTSU too.
He might be an interesting person to
He
talk
might be
to.
an interesting person to talk to.
You were, before we turned this tape on, you were talking about voter registration and voter participation.
Yes.
And I asked you if this was
That
an organization.
is my pet peeve. I cannot imagine a person living in America not voting. You know, it's just, we have rights, but we have a responsibility. And it just, I cannot understand. And it's the one thing that disturbs me more than anything is why we do not take the privilege to vote. Women had to fight for the rights. Minorities had to fight for the right. And now we both have it, and we don't go to the polls and vote. It's just something I cannot understand. And I wish I knew what I could do to get, because
I think you'd be out doing it if you knew what it was.
the decision, I would. I make a full-time, overtime. Because the decisions that's made affect all of us directly or indirectly. And that's the way I felt when I was on the council, that I'm representing the people. And whatever decision I made is going to affect everybody, directly or indirectly. I don't mean just with taxes, because we the one levy the taxes, but I mean, the police protect, the fire protection, all of this, you know, is under that, the council to vote on. And I cannot understand it. That's my problem. I just get very disturbed by people not voting. And the issues are out there. I mean, you know, it's not that, and if you don't understand that you have avenues to, then even the, you can call the headquarters, and if you have questions, you know, it's not like you can't get what a person stands for. You know, I cannot, especially intelligent people, I cannot for the love of me understand why we don't vote. Oh, they're going to do what they want to anyway, you know,
Well, I guess it's because you know that one person can make a difference.
One person can make a difference. We have changed things by one vote. Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask you this. We were talking about the number of African American council people. As I said, I don't live in Murfreesboro, so I'm not really sure how this election goes. Did only one African American run for council?
Yes.
So
there was a couple of times, I think 2 people ran during his 24 years. They ran when he ran.
Not against him necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just for that one seat.
See, we try to encourage to run the off 2 years. See, every 2 years. And the term is for 4 years, so that other 2 years would have been a good time. But nobody.
Perhaps it's like the voting. It's just an apathy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Someone needs to.
Well, there
people are gonna
was
have to
a
step
time
forward.
when my husband ran, and one of them among the many reasons he was chosen, is because of his business. He had his own business. He could be off when he wanted to, and many times they had 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock meeting. You know, it's the accessibility for some was not there to get off their employment to do that. So that played a part too. And now they're having a lot of meetings at night where people can attend. Like the school board used to be 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you know.
It's restrictive for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really was, especially for the African Americans who did not have the type jobs where they could be. That years back that played a part, but not now. I think it's enough people in positions where they could take that time.
Well, I've been here a long time. I want to wrap this up. You've been gracious to share your memories, but we were talking about community leadership, and you told me earlier that you've been involved with Boys and Girls Club and Parks and Recreation in Murfreesboro.
Senior Citizens Board. I've been on the Senior Citizen Board. I was served on the bank trustee. I've been on the MTSU Trustee Foundation.
Where does all this come from, Mary?
I'd like to know myself. They said, "What's Mary into now?" And when I would term was over and something, I said, "That's it, I'm not." And the kids said, "Yeah, Mom, just for a little while or something." I don't know. Like I said, I guess there's such a need. There's such a need, and I have been blessed to be in a position where my work allows me to do certain things. I'm also treasure my church, and that's a big job. And I have served as president of the mission board there and Bible school teacher for the mission. I also teach Bible school, vacation Bible school in the summer. And I haven't begun to tell you the activities that I wish I had brought the list of things, but I've always been involved. I know I've left out some very important boards of things. I am now on the United Way board, and I am now on the Murfreesboro Electric Power Board.
I think you're just a girl who can't say no.
So, well,
you've seen, Murfreesboro's your home, and you've seen a need.
oh, there is a need. And if everybody would just volunteer just a little, and especially with our youth, I mean, there is such a need for guidance with them. And I think we need to concentrate more on, when I see the children on the street with the pants almost to their knees, I almost wrecked my car. Because somewhere, you see, we're having so many babies having babies who lack parenting skills. And somehow we're going to have to get in there and help those young people. It's just, now that's a need there. We're going to have to do something to reach these children. Like I said, these young people having the babies, and it seemed to be a vicious cycle, you know, that you know, that's all. I'm going to get to the 8th grade, then I'm going to have a baby. And one time, the Habitat houses now are getting a lot of them out of that environment. And they're getting an Even Start program where they take the 3-year-olds. It's early childhood training. It's improving, and there are so many skills needed other than academics. I think they can start those too early, but just nurturing these children and the thing they're not getting at home. Somehow, when it was an all-black community in school, we knew everybody, we knew the needs, and as teachers, we were the teachers, the mamas, the grandparents, the counselor, whatever was needed. If the children needed shoes, whatever they needed, we just pitched in. But now, it's a diverse community, and that's what we want. We're living everywhere, and we don't have that. I mean, the church is about the only thing now, and because you know who are the ones at church who don't hardly need the needs of the ones out there. But if I were to do anything different now, I would try to come up with something to help our youth. We try to have things at church to pull them in, but somehow we're going to have to go to them because they don't come in like we would like them. But
you were involved with the Boys and Girls Club?
Yes.
Here in Murfreesboro?
Yes, I was on that board 6 or 8 years. Yes, and I was one of the ones to help move in the new building.
Oh, really?
I was at the old building at the McFadden. Yeah, I was among the first groups to work with the Boys and Girls Club. But see, they have to get there. When I left, they could get them from school, but the parents had to pick them up, and that presented a problem.
So, administrators or staff at Boys and Girls Club could transport them from school to the center?
That's right.
But they could not take them home?
Yes, because they would live, So, when we at McFadden, it was a little different. Over there, the kids could walk. The kids that needed it most could walk from the January Street project. But now, I don't know. Since I've been off, they might have made some provisions. But when we first opened over there, they could get them from school. But the parents had to pick them up. And that presented a big problem. That's like SportsCom. When that opened over there, these people on this side could not get over there. So.
Well, now, the Parks and Recreation are building a similar complex, are they not? And where is it?
On Patterson.
Patterson. Yeah.
And they've added on to Bradley School a theater and art center or something to help motivate children. So we're making progress, but it's a lot needed, and I think that's the thing that drives me. There's such a need, and if everybody could do just a little, when they open this center, if they could give a couple hours a month to go and help supervise or supervise homework.
You're going to be over there, aren't you?
I hope not, but it's such a need. You have to be out there to see. And my husband, they call him Santa Claus, cream puffs, because
Santa Claus or what?
Cream puffs, so soft,
Oh.
People come and cry and say they don't have food or something, and we turned the lights on, and he said, well, I know he's no good and threw his money away, but there are children involved, and they need the heat or the food or the... So we found out that a lot of times they were just using him because they knew he could do that. But now I have a warm heart, but he has a burning heart. He really, if you knew the things that he does in the community, and I would meet people and they said, oh, I feel so badly about Mr. Scales. He helped my family so much. I mean, everywhere I go, you know, I hear those kinds of things. And I know because I said, we can't do that. We can't. Well, we just pay our bill on the 15th. We'll go on and do this now or something. And he said, this is the way you serve the Lord, by helping your fellow man. And so he has geared the whole family, the children are on different boards, and you know, trying to help. They've been on the heart fund and different ones, because I guess that's a part of their lives too, you know. But
I was wondering, do you see a politician in the family?
I don't know. I really don't know. Madeline is on the disciplinary committee of the city where they have a problem, you know, that, what's Bob on? Bob is on he's on so many things. He's been Chamber of Commerce and Hard Fund, and I don't know. He's, as far as being involved, he's more like his dad.
Following in
but I don't know
father's
whether
footsteps.
I don't know whether whether he's burnt out, because you give so much. When I was on the council, you met every Thursday. And, I was on the council when we built the new library, and we met till 3 o'clock one morning trying to decide the brick.
3 o'clock in the morning?
Yes. Oh, we had some late meetings.
Was that for the city? Is that called the city center?
Yeah, downtown, with the library and the city hall. And, I served on that. I mean, I was on the council when...
To decide on the brick?
We made a decision about everything.
Well, I know,
but the brick was the one that... So when we see each other, that's a joke, the bricks, you know. So we had different bricks out where we had to go and view the bricks. And I thought, what do we do about bricks? You see a brick, but when you get it all together, it might look different, you know. But we had vendors who, you know, had problems with our making decisions and the spec. And it was a learning experience to when we built that complex, and trying to get the money and assure people that we're not taking tax money away, and floating bonds. And now that was truly an experience. So all that growth happened when I was on council. I imagine that was the busiest time. But you know, to give, all right, you met on Thursday, but all these other decisions about the growth and the building, you in a committee every day, doing something. It was really a trying time at that particular time. It assumed your life. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the way I said. It was just, that's all you could do. I mean, that was really all you could do, because, like the mayor said when I went off, he said, one thing I can say about Mary, she did her homework. So, yeah, I would do my homework. I said, well, I guess that's my teacher training, you know, because when my husband, I learned that from him. When we talk about an issue, and we say, this is the way you're going to vote on that. Well, when he get back and he say, I said, why did you change your vote? He said, well, Mary, we didn't have all the facts. And when I got all the facts. So that's what I really learned, that you have to study to know the facts, mm-hmm. to make a decision. Because decision you make going to affect somebody's life. Mm-hmm. So so I had to spend a lot of time investigating, you know, get the whole story. Because the person who wanted something would give you their side. Yeah. So, but politics is not me. I'd rather have education. And it has many, many problems, but I want to do what I think we should do, but you have the city budget and you're responsible for everything, and if you give all the money over here, it's going to lack, and you just have so much to work with, and you don't want to increase the property taxes of people, and it's just a lot of people don't understand the decision the politicians make, but their hands are tied. You know, if we give this more, we have to tax the people more, and you try to stay within bounds, and then you know that so much is needed over here, but this is all you can do, and it's frustrating to me.
Rutherford County is, what is it, the second fastest growing county in the state?
So that has put a burden. Yeah, it really, and at the time I was on, that the growth was just, we were getting all the new factories and everything in, and people moving in, and schools bursting at the seam, and it was an experience, but because you can't do everything that's needed bothers me. But there are reasons why you can't do everything, and because they knew, but when they said education, I'm right there to see. They would all look at me because they knew. But I did fight for those schools. The city, they thought they could wait, but I knew the problem we were having in education. So they said she is very persistent, but they found out when they opened, and we still getting portables on classrooms, buildings. You know, like my little sixth grader. This year he's in a portable. I said, oh. This is his big year, senior year in elementary, and outside in the portable.
Is that family? Your little sixth grader?
My little grandson.
Your grandson.
I have a grandson, and I thought, I hate he's not strutting around in the building, being the sixth grader, you know.
See, you should have stayed on the council and gotten another school opened.
They would have thrown me off. They were so upset with me. Mayor, we can't do it right now. We have this, and we have this. And I said, and we have this.
Mary, I want to thank you for sharing these memories. This is great.
I wish I had organized, because there are so many things that I've really been involved in that have been dear to my heart that I have not. I had said when you called that I would sit down and just jot some things down, but I didn't. But
well, it's nice to know how some of these things come into being, the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Oh, yes.
What is the catalyst behind the Parks and Recreation redoing the facility over here at, what is that? Patterson.
All right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of children in that community that are in need. There are a lot of good people in the housing projects, but you know the way to qualify is low income. And so they lack a lot of facilities and things that they really need. So it's a very, as I said, to get across town to SportsCom, they don't have the means. And this has been on the drawing board a good while to improve this area. And it's a great need, and there will be young people who can walk to the facility. And as I said, you know, we have parents who are so young and don't have the parenting skills.
When I think I've seen that it is a facility beyond SportsCom. It has, does it not have
it's supposed to be
an
the
auditorium,
state of the art,
library?
Does
it have computer technology in it?
We're hoping, and see, it's sort of connected with Bradley School, so they'll be able to use both facilities. The teachers can come over, and they can use some of the Bradley.
But it's going to offer more than just sports.
Oh yes, yes. In fact, like I said, with the computers and the after-school program where we have people to help with homework, and Bradley's going to have the theater where children will have an opportunity to express themselves. And it's supposed to be the state of the art. And I'm just hoping that different organizations, different churches would take a certain time to come over and do a project. If it's nothing, just work with the kids with the homework. It's going to take all of us to make this facility go, because funds to hire people to do everything, it's
going to take a lot of volunteers.
It take a lot of volunteers.
I was just sitting here thinking, recently there was a project, I think it's completed now, for the old Bradley School.
Mm-hmm.
Were you involved in that?
Yes.
I'm not surprised.
Well, I was on the...
what was the catalyst
I was on the city council.
Oh, okay.
To approve.
Now, what did they do? Restore the building?
It is simply beautiful.
I've been wanting
all
to go
of that
and see.
old wood and all is just the floors. I mean, it's just. My husband went to that school. Mm-hmm. It's they restored it, and they're gonna try to have some history of the African American community, Rutherford County, in a room, and different. And it's a meeting room upstairs where they're having reservations for teas and family reunions, and it's just really a nice, and
it's open now.
It's open.
Have you kept up with it? Is it reaching the potential that you had hoped?
Yes, and now that school has opened, teachers will be bringing classes over to view the different rooms of history.
I've actually thought it would be a wonderful place for an oral history project.
Oh, it would.
Where people could record their memories.
It would be. It simply would be, because my husband's mother had the first hot lunch program. She cooked vegetable soup every day.
Really?
And took it over for children. And they didn't have hot lunch program. And she was the one. And Mr. Hopgood, the superintendent, would always tell how she did that, because she lived 2 doors here, and she could go right across the yard there.
We've thought, the purpose behind the Oral History Project is to capture these stories, because they're going to be gone.
That's true.
And I just thought in my mind, I haven't been over to the facility. I've wanted to go, but I thought that would be a wonderful place to record people's memories.
It would be. It would be.
Maybe we can talk about that when we're not on this tape.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. It's such a need, and as Hillary's.
After 12.
Is
you must be you must be exhausted.
No.
Okay, you were telling me that it takes a village.
Oh yes, and this is, other than my pet peeve of voting, is to getting people to reach out and help our youth. Really, when we think about it, I know in the African American community, the community helped each other,
You say helped in past tense. What do you mean?
I said in the past.
Okay.
When my generation grew up.
Okay.
They helped by being concerned, and if a parent saw another child doing something, they would reprimand them, and I know one thing, the lady who lived next door, I don't know how she knew when the report card time came, but she would stand out with my kids and all the ones in the community. Come here, let me see that card. Oh boy.
Really?
And so my son, the one was in here, he said, I'm going to show her. I'm getting all A's next time. Just that little motivation she did made a difference. And in my day, to stand on the corner and talk to a boy was, terrible. Nice girls didn't do that. So I was in the drugstore one day, and the guy was standing there, and I stood there, and I was talking to him, looking around, just so thrilled, and when I got home and put my foot on the first step, my door opened. Somebody had called my mother and told her that I was on the corner talking to her. So I'm talking about, I just mentioned that little, but looked like everybody looked after each other. Mm-hmm. And it made a difference. It made a difference. But now, seemingly, these young parents don't want anybody to try to help the children. So we're going to have to, because of all the drugs and the jails bursting at the seam, mm-hmm. shows us that we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to get involved some way. You can just help one child overcome. Because, see, these kids are brought up in this environment, and they see the warps of money and the big gold chains and the big cars. And that's the way they want to be with the drugs. You know, it is so sad, but, and they say, well, Mary, you can't cover the world. We can't.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, now I know why it's so hard to get an interview with you. You are a very busy lady. You have a lot of projects yet to work on, don't you?
Yeah, it's, I think we should all do the very best we can, and my philosophy is to live every day to the fullest, you know. With my husband and with me with the cancer, and the Lord has spared me, I'm even more determined to each day, you know, do the best I can and try to help somebody, you know, because next month I'll be 72, and I am so blessed. The Lord has just blessed me so till I cannot do enough to you know, help somebody. And he, like I said, our business since 1916, and my boys are the third generation, and it's modern, up to date, and we still have a good clientele, and it's just so much to be thankful for. Till, you know, you need to give something back, and the kids say, okay, Mom, you need to slow down. I said, I'm going to do that. I really mean I'm going to do that. And then someone would come along needing something, or parents come, want me to talk to a child or something, and, you know, there you go again. You know, it's just, I think that's what we're about. We're here to help each other survive. The survivors, you know, on TV.
I believe you might have won. You would be a survivor, wouldn't you?
Not in that sense, I don't believe. I might have been trying, huh? But it was, I never thought too much about being the first African American to be a full-time instructor on MTSU campus. But it was something I knew that it was not just a race. And like my husband said, you're going to kill yourself trying to prove a point, you know, that we are individuals, and we're not all in a sack, you know, that we should accept each other for what he or she is, you know, not by the color of the skin. And I think maybe I had that in the back of my mind when I went to Bellwood, down to the supervisor of instruction, and in MTSU campus, that we're individuals, you know. Give us a break, you know, we can do. Mm-hmm. And that might have been, as I look back, and as my husband said, you're always trying to prove a point. But if I can change an attitude, and said accept people for what they are and not judge them by the color of their skin. And maybe that was always been in the back of my mind, that we're somebody, we're individual, we're special, and that we're citizens of America, and we need an equal opportunity. I guess I never once thought to analyze why my philosophy is what it is and what drives me to do. But I do know that we all need an opportunity, we need a chance, and not be judged by our color, where we live, who our parents are, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know, and I try to put God first in my life, and I think He directs me. And sometimes I thought, how did I get here? What happened? Why was I chosen? Because each time I have not been out seeking things, but I've been drawn in, like on these different committees. I was told to call you, like you were told to call to see me or something. That's how these things have happened. And they know when it says educational youth, that's me, that kind of thing. So I guess that's what's all about. And I feel I have been so blessed to have had the opportunities that I've had. And I like to tell young people, you can do, but it doesn't just happen. You have to make it happen. You have to be prepared.
Do your homework.
They call me where I worked when I was teaching there. Here she comes, all excited, and I would be just really all excited about something we were going to do. And I'd probably go in the teacher's line. Oh, here she comes, She's excited. I thought, aren't you people excited about with your students and what you're doing? And when I was in the public school, I would give a production every year with all of the 8th graders. And we would work nights, and I would have parents building things. And one little mother of the boy's father had died that I had, and I had a play, and they were at the president's ball or something. This is American Story, but anyway, they had to dance, and because we made the little costumes with the tuxedo tails, out of the crepe paper and stuff, and I'm not going to dance. The guys said they weren't going to dance, and the mother told me, she said, every morning when he gets up, he grabs me and we do the waltz, and everything. And she said, that's the best relationship we've had since the daddy died. And then one daddy said, when we were building things, he said, this is the first time I have interacted with my son. It goes beyond. I said, in math class, they're like this, and I want to know more about the students. So I've always given of myself and my time to try to get the whole child, It's just, and they are beautiful. And I had one child who could not read. He was having big problems. And one of these productions I was having, there was a plug in the stage. And he discovered that plug, you could plug into all the classrooms. He was good. He could fix your television. And I had him to do a project for the fair, and he won the first prize and to the state. They took it to the state. He had a combustion engine, something. And the parents came for an interview, and I said, oh, you should be so proud of your son. And the mother and the father both started crying. I said, this is the first time we've had anything positive said about our child. And I said, he's going to be great. He's good with his hands. He wasn't an academic student, but he was great. He walked tall, and the kids started sitting with him, eating lunch, and accepted him, But at first, he was one of them little dummies sitting over there, and it was just, I've just loved every moment of working with young people. I was really, and I've had them at my home. One time, I just must share this with you. One time, I had a class, and my principal said, okay, you're so great, okay. She pulled all of the 16, 17-year-olds. It used to hold kids back. Mm-hmm. And these children had repeated a grade at least twice or something. Mm-hmm. And thanks, dear. And she said, I'm putting them in the 8th grade, and they're going to high school next year. I met those kids. I took those textbooks up and told them, I know who you are. You know who you are. I don't care where you came from. Some of them lived on a block where there was one faucet. And if it froze, they had no water.
Now, is this
Here in the city.
This is here in Murfreesboro?
Yeah, in the city. And this had to be about 6 to 1.
So this was still a segregated school then?
Yeah,
in
the segregated
61.
school. And I got those kids. I couldn't sleep nights. I saw them. So I took up the textbook. They had 8th grade books they couldn't read. And I said, I'm going to start with where you are. I'm here to help you. I mean, I sold myself to them. And they start coming to school every day. The principal would say, how you get them to come to school every day? I said, we're busy. We got things going on. And on the weekend, Saturdays, we would go and clean yards, make our little money. And I would have hot dogs and things in the evening. And then
At your home?
The cookout, yes.
Yeah.
But we go around and hire people to let us clean their yards. Rake leaves and things. Because, see, it used to be they had march of dimes and everything. And every class, you know, the class that would win, they would announce them. I said, we're going to win everything because we're the best class in this school. And I won those kids. You know, they corrected each other. They would not let anybody. And everything was a teaching, even when we went to lunch, how we use our fork. And, I mean, it was just really, really sad. And they were excited to learn. I mean, some of them were writing their names with a small letter. I mean, I sat with those kids and worked and loved them. And I cried at night to see, and I got everybody I could helping me with them. And they believed in me and tried to do everything I wanted to do. I said, look, you don't have any shoe polish, but no mud would come in these shoes. I had buttons and things for the girls to put buttons on their blouses. We're taking these safety pins out. We're combing our hair. You know, we are special. This is a skills class, and I work with them. They assumed my life, and my husband sort of got on me about it because I never knew people like that existed. And I worked with them until they start walking tall. And one day they said, Miss Scales, let us go to the lunchroom by ourselves. I said, you know you're not supposed to do that. And they said, please. And they got each other in line, and they went, and they sat. And when I walked in, they were just sitting there smiling, because they were supposed to be the bad kids at the school, you know, and that's what they did. Oh, it was just, but I could not have taken another year like that, because I never knew kids existed like that. So there was one little fella in my room. Could you take it off? Take this off. Because I was in my class. He was a pretty good student, but he was a mischievous little fella. He wasn't bad. And if I say, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Get up, talk to your friends, sharpen your pencil, throw the paper in the trash, whatever you're going to do, because once I call time, I want everybody in their seats, and we're going to do whatever we're going to do. And this little fella would always jump up, go to the trash can or do something. He was just a mischievous little fella. So I said, young man, I will be at your home today. I went and told the principal, I'm leaving the building, I'm going to a home visit. I knocked on this door, and a little boy said, come in. There was a little old lady in the bed. As soon as you opened the door, you saw a bed. And I told her who it was. She said, oh, I am so happy to see you, because my grandson, Blue, he took care of that lady. He bathed her, he fed her, he cooked, he washed and ironed his clothes. This is a little 8th grader. And I could hardly stay from fighting the tears back. And I ran out of there. I had to go to bed. I was so sick. I felt I had missed. Oh, when I walk up, he'd be there to open my car door. And I thought, why couldn't he break his leg and not come? But when I found out that that child was being a man at home, I took him under my wings, you know. And if I'd see a little piece of paper outside, I said, come here. Go and pick up that paper outdoors. And I looked, he'd be turning the flip, because see, he never could play because he was had all that work to do. That was the beginning of my teaching career. to try to understand your students. And from that point on, my teaching strategy was getting to know there's a reason why a child acts like he or she acts. And that was beginning of my knowing how to be a good teacher. And I would tell my student teachers, it's something good about that child. You might have to take his shoes and socks off and look under his feet, but there's something there, to tell. And sometimes I would just say, oh, I like that shirt today. You color your hair or something, you cut your hair, something, give them a little pat. I mean, some of those kids needed a hug, and that little boy, when he opened the car door for me in the morning, I'd give him a hug, but then I told my husband, and he got social workers, and they got a little old lady to move in with them, and I mean, he did everything. And his little clothes were clean, and I thought, so from that point on, I would tell our student teachers, I said, try to get to know your students. There is a reason for them acting the way they act, And that was my strength in teaching, to try to get to know something about the student. And you could understand why they act. I mean, if his dog was run over and he came to school sad, go sit over there and get your favorite book for a little while. I mean, it's just trying to know the students made a difference. And, if I could get teachers to just try to know the children and the circumstances from which they come. They're not all in the same little, their environment's different. And so many are lost because they sit back and feel inferior. And it's a massive job, a teacher's job. It's just, and I sit now and I say, oh, I need to be in the classroom.
It sounds like it. Like it to me.
I go and introduce some concepts in classrooms and show them how to use manipulative and say that the computer is just one of the really many aids, but you have to be directed teaching and teach the child and then let them practice, But it's just, teaching is a hard job, but it's all knowing that these are human beings that you're working with, and each one is different, and you just try to, and at the end of the year you sit and say, I wish I could have done more for Johnny, but people who are there just for a job, they're really hurting children. It's just, it's a calling, because it's not a monetary. And if my salary was just a supplement, I could do a lot of things wherein the next teacher, she was survivor of her home, and she couldn't buy the materials and things that I did, because and couldn't help children. Every child in my class went on a field trip. Whatever was needed, had whatever was needed, because Miss Scales, I didn't. I said, oh, yes, you did, because I would pay for everything, it was that. But see, I was blessed to be able to do that. And some of my cohorts, they were just surviving, with their salary. And it's our youth. It's just really awesome. And I did a research paper on the growth and development of an adolescent. That's when I started not being so hard on them that they weren't being maliciously bad, that was part of their growth. I mean, everything's happening to them at that level.
Oh, yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. And I thought, how do they live with themselves? And
we blessedly have forgotten what it felt like to go through that, haven't we?
That's true. And one student said, Miss Scales, I don't like your hair today. Why you change or something? And one teacher said, why don't you send him to the office? He's being impotent. do you send a child to the office for, you know? I said, well, you know, I said, well, when I get in the classroom, I get the respect. I mean, he didn't like my hair today, you know.
How many years did you teach, Mary?
20.
Because you've had it's been broken up with
Yeah,
various things,
yeah.
but
Yeah. In different settings, you
Yeah.
know. I guess 25, in different settings, but yeah. But out of all I've done, my heart's in the classroom.
I can tell that.
Yeah, that's in the classroom.
Thank you for this interview today.
But it's been a pleasure to reminisce. I wish I had organized my thoughts and given you a truer picture.
No,
But,
I think this is a beautiful interview. You've brought me to tears several times while we've been doing this. We're going to put one more thing on
One
here,
more
and then we're
thing.
both going to have
One more
lunch.
thing. When Dr. Walker came to the university the first day,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you know they were in the clinic. They lived in the clinic because the president's home was in renovation.
Mm-hmm.
They called me and said they were here, they were in the clinic, their clothes did not come, and that I should go and see about them. So I called and told them I would take them to dinner. They said, we can't go, we don't have any clothes. I said, very good. Now I won't have to prepare. My whole family, every Sunday after church, we have dinner together, the grandkids and all at my house. And so I had plenty of food. I said, I will pick you up and bring you over and have dinner. So that Sunday, I went over and picked them up, and they were at my home. They sat at my table with the two girls and all. We talked, and we had the first really entertaining of the new president at my home. And that's the way it's been. We've been called to do things, you know. They just call us, you know. I thought someone should have met the president and made sure they had, you know, the facilities and the food and whatever, but they called me. And
well, someone did meet them then.
yeah, but you know, I just thought, wow, you know, why did you call me? Was it because I'm black? I just couldn't understand why that happened, but I was very pleased. And I was so happy that they were there when I didn't have to special clean or special food. You know how you do? I said, oh, great, come on, kick your shoes off and relax. And I didn't have to do any special preparation because my grandkids, the Sundays we go out to eat, they're not happy. Granny, you didn't cook any macaroni and cheese. So I had the dinner already prepared, and we had a lovely discussion, and we had a very good relationship from that point on.
We're going to miss them.
Oh, yes. He has just done a tremendous job, and he is truly an educator, one who's interested and has strong visions. Mm-hmm. You know, Illinois is going to get him.
Yep, that's true.
Well, he applied at UT, and but at any rate, that's the kind of thing that we have been doing in this community. I don't know why and why they chose to call me to check on them, see about their food and this sort of thing. But I hope the next president, because the house will be there and all, because it was such in disarray that they had to stay at the clinic. And but those are the kind of calls we get, and I don't know why, but it was a delightful, because we did form a very close relationship. And of course, she is an Alpha Kappa Alpha woman, and her two daughters are in my sorority, so that made a difference.
It's a strong bond.
Yeah. But I did want to say that's among the many things we're called to do, and but we were thrilled to do that, and we found then that they were very special people. Mm-hmm. So.
Well,